So it's nearly good to be here in Cardiff. So let's just get a couple of things out of the way. I'm English. When I was invited to speak, I looked at my diary and I thought, well, that's remarkable. I'm in Cardiff anyway, today on DWP, but I didn't check the rugby diary. So just three things to say. One, I'm English. Two, you deserved it. But three, it is not over yet. Okay, I'm told I'm with an advanced group today, so we can cut to the chase. I have scoured the internet for the quintessential essence of leadership. I've got it here on a video. It's actually Steve Barber, who used to run Microsoft Office, and it captures everything I'm about in helping develop you as leaders. So this session, I'm told, finishes at 12:30. This is how you need to be at 12:30. What a fantastic way to start a conference. So why don't we have my intro again? Come back up here and... No, it isn't going to work. That, of course, is not at all what it's all about. But let me say a few words of introduction first. Originally from Wigan, so have Sean Edwards as one of the fans of the book and what I want to talk about. He's also a fellow Wiganer. Then went to university, really dedicated myself to learning and growing there, and I stand before you as the Oxford University 1974 table football champion. Hours of dedication. Then went to Procter & Gamble, started working in marketing. I was involved in creating the first Head & Shoulders TV commercial where we parted people's hair down the middle, washed one half in Head & Shoulders and one half in a mystery shampoo. And I can reveal today the name of that shampoo. We chose Vosy because it was rubbish and it didn't work. All it did was it had a medicinal smell and washed out the big bits. That's all it did. I then went on to work on Fair and Liquid and make commercials about Mummy, Mummy, why are my hands so soft? And fast forwarding, ran a cosmetics company in Los Angeles. But then at the age of 38, something very interesting happened. And I hadn't seen it coming. I'd got to 38 before I had asked myself any questions about, well, Steve, what is it all about? And what do you really want to be doing? And what matters to you? What do you care about? And I was very lucky in that within the next 3 months, I found the answer to some of those questions, and the answer is still the same today. I realised that what I really wanted to do and who I wanted to be was be a great partner to people trying to make a bigger difference. Now the title over the door, or the badge, is leadership coach or leadership expert. But really, what have I been doing for the last 20 odd years? I've been sitting and talking with people who are trying to make the biggest difference they can. And it involves something to do with this leadership stuff. But I prefer to phrase it that way because, as we'll see in a minute, this leadership word and this leadership concept can put some people off and it can confuse some people, and I don't want it doing that. So I'm much more about this session. It might be titled Leadership Plain and Simple, but it's actually about how might you make an even bigger difference, and what might be some key ingredients in that, which I will walk you through. And some might resonate, and you might see new possibilities in some of them. And some you might go, don't know what he's on about that. But I will walk you through some ingredients that you might add to your way of working and your way of interacting and your way of showing up at work, which might help you take all the vast technical knowledge and expertise that you have and put in what I call this leadership stuff, which is sometimes I think of as the ingredient in an organisation or a workplace which helps get the best out of all the other ingredients. People, strategy, processes, and so on and so on. So that's what I will walk you through. Let me start with a couple of terrible, I think they are terrible numbers about leadership. There was a survey done in the UK about 18 months ago, and it asked people on the street, do you believe leadership is a very rare quality? What percentage, 2 or 3 of you, a few of you, call out a number, what percentage of people said, yes, I believe leadership is a very rare quality? What's your number? 74? 23? We have a spectrum. Here's the number, I think it's terrible. 66% of people, Joe Public, are thinking leadership's a very rare quality. I love this number to be 0. But what it points to is the power of an old story about leadership, which is that it's only for a certain few. And they're a bit different to me. And they might have gone to the right school, and they've got a title, and they've got a place in a hierarchy, and so on. And it's the old story about leading that I'm trying to kill. Because I much prefer people on the planet to see themselves as, yeah, I can make a difference, I can perhaps make an even bigger difference. And this leadership stuff, which I'm not going to get bogged down by, might be a factor in that. One of the ways that somebody's looked at being a leader is a previous, much earlier, President of the United States, and I just love this quote, and my betting is everybody in the room will be able to see themselves as a leader if you see yourself this way, particularly given the profession and field of work that you work in. If your actions inspire people to dream more, learn more, do more and become more, you are a leader. I'm going to pose a number of questions to you this morning, so this is a great opportunity, just for a short while, to be selfish and think about yourself. And here's the first question in that space. Just notice to what extent you are currently thinking about yourself and feeling and believing that you are a leader. And if you're not fully there, I would hope that in our next few minutes, our while together, you might shift further into that space to being somebody who embraces that, yeah, that is me. So that's the first question. I'm going to pose a number of questions. At times, I'll ask you to go into pairs and chat about these questions. In fact, we'll do that in a few minutes' time. That's question 1 that you might take into your pair to chat about. What do you see about yourself? That'll always be my question. So that's the first terrible number. Here comes the second terrible number. So I go and find the biggest survey I can of people in organisations rating how well led is their organisation. And these are in the private, public sector, that are in health, or in the arts, or in business, or in charities, in government, and so on and so on. Done globally. Time for you to shout out your next answer. What percentage of people, and this number is pretty even across the planet, what percentage of people say, my organisation is very well led or even better? What? 13. 13% here opens the bidding. Somebody else? 40%? 10%. My God, my spirits are dropping even worse. Here's the number. 38%. Now to me, I'm thinking, hang on a sec. This topic of leadership and leading organisations, it's been around for thousands of years. There are thousands of books, there have been thousands of conferences. Has mankind only got to the point so far of only 38% of organisations are very well led? That's a lot of schools, hospitals, charities, government departments, businesses. There's so much waste going on. So what's my quick view on what's going on here? Why is this 38% and not 88%? I think there's a couple of things going on. The first is that I meet many people in senior leadership positions who have risen into that position helped by being very technically sound at what they do. And they have spent years developing their technical expertise and skills. but they've spent far less time learning about how to be a leader. So have a look at this little quick model. My very simple model is that if I give them titles, in our first job, we're an operator, we've got to do some stuff, we've got to learn skills, get some technical knowledge, know some good stuff, and then get stuff done. And I just call that being an operator. Then, most of us in our walk of life, and I know there might be some exceptions in the room here, I'll mention that in a second, then, because we're very good at operating, we're then asked to then become a manager. Who's then organising and coordinating and has budgets and timetables and so on. And then the world or our organisation or life comes along and says, now we want you to consider being a leader as well. So just pause and notice first, to what extent are you applying yourself to develop yourself as a leader in compared with how you've helped develop yourself as a superb technical operator or manager? Because the leading stuff I'm hoping to show may help you multiply the impact of all your skills and knowledge and help you make a bigger difference. So the first thing is perhaps notice that. Here's the second thing to notice, which is that those of you already in this leadership space, trying to be a leader, trying to make the world a better place somehow through your leadership as well as your technical skills, I noticed a few years ago that every person trying to lead kept on doing this more than they wanted to. They kept on coming out of leader space, getting dragged into the day-to-day and the detail and all that stuff. And God, I came in at 8:30 this morning, determined to get on with that big project about building the future, and I've just had emails and meetings and interruptions all day. And even working with people like Gus O'Donnell, head of the civil service, top quality leader, one of the best I've come across, I mean, blimey, if Gus is being caught up like this, what chance of some of the rest of us? So, let's break it up, let's pause here for a minute. Get yourself into a pair, or a maximum of 3, because I'd like you to have some airtime. In fact, let's do that first before I tell you what your focus is going to be. So questions can include, to what extent are you believing, feeling, and thinking of yourself as a leader? Just what's going on with you in that space. Secondly, to what extent are you finding the space to be leader rather than being dragged into operator manager? Is that something you might want to take away and look at playing differently? And then here's the added question, which will help those of you who want to step forward even more as a leader. My question is, how clear are you in your head about how you are when you're in your leader mode, different to how you are when you're doing your operator manager stuff? Because the clearer you can be on those two images, the more chance I give you of stepping into leader mode more often. There's a little bundle of questions to have a go at. Tell your partner what you see about yourself in those questions. I'll give you just 4 or 5 minutes and then let's hear back from some of you. Go. And I know it's fantastic talking about ourselves. If I was unclear about that, I have a friend Peter, he called me once, he said, I've just come out of an interview in New York. He said, I've spent 6 hours in a room with 3 psychotherapists. He said, it was fantastic. Nobody's listened to me for that long before. Genuinely, that was his call. Okay, so we've got some roving mics. I'd like to hear from some of you. Just what do you see from those questions? What did you get there? What did you notice? We'll come to mine. Thank you. A lady here.
Thank you. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about my colleague who was sitting beside me, and she gave me a very good quote. She said, I listen more when I'm a leader, and I talk more when I'm a manager.
Very nice.
Isn't she clever?
Very nice. But very interestingly, operator, manager, leader, it's a little bit simplistic, but just to support everything you say, operator, manager, you get along there a lot by knowing lots of stuff, and in some situations you've got to have the answer. The better leaders I've worked with are much better with their questions. stimulate thinking and possibilities and answers of what could be from others. So it's a little bit black and white, I know, but if you could have talking, listening is what the lady suggested. I would build on it and say answers, questions. Thanks for kicking us off, even though you were talking about somebody else rather than yourself. Yeah, okay, somebody else. Another roving mic on the go. Who have we got?
I also am going to talk about somebody else.
Oh, all right.
I think you'll probably find that that's a thing that we do
Okay.
in our profession.
Right, all right.
I want to talk about somebody who I was talking to who has recently finished their education, so could be regarded at the moment as an operator.
Yes.
However, the people coming through the education process in healthcare are often far more inspired, energised, up-to-date, creative, and there's almost something about the leader and the manager nurturing the operator
Really
and
good.
not being threatened by it.
Really good, really good. So what the lady's done is take us, and then we need a mic on the back row. Back row, terrible reference. Oh, sorry, I've just brought up a sick feeling for a minute. What the lady has just pointed to there is the A-level version of this. Okay, so the GCSE version is operator, manager, leader. Of course, even as an operator doing any job anywhere, you can be a leader to an extent. And crucially, your organisation can encourage that or slap it down. I have lost count of the number of times I've talked with people who said, you know what, I went on a really long holiday, two or three weeks, and do you know what, while I was away, the team coped and actually did very well. Yes. What does that tell us at times about how we keep the lid on people rather than bring them forward? I'll say more about that in a moment. Thank you. On the back row.
So I'm talking about myself here. I don't consider myself as a good leader. And my idea about really the good leader, whose effect will last long. I have seen so many people leading the things, having change and have good vision, but the moment they leave, things will collapse.
Yeah, very good. So if you want to read about that, look up a paper in Harvard Business Review by a guy called Jim Collins, and he talks about level 5 leadership. And level 4, let's cut to the chase, level 4 is exactly the leader you're talking about. While I'm here, we mobilise things, we sort things out, everything's in good shape while I'm here. Haven't given a thought to when I've gone. And I'll create around me some people who might be a bit reliant on me. Level 5 leader, completely different. He's thinking, when I'm gone sitting on my terrace with my cup of tea, I want to make sure that organisation is performing even better than when I was there. Now, how do I need to develop that organisation and bring it on for when I'm not around? Jim Collins calls it level 4 or level 5 leadership. There's a nice little Harvard Business Review article about that. Superb, thank you very much. Okay, so, first exploration, this whole, well, to what extent do I see myself as a leader? Do I have a picture in my head of who I am? How is that different to me as operator manager? I encourage you to nurture that thinking. Now, that 38% number, I said I think there are two things going on which have the number be appallingly low. The first one, as I say, is to what extent are seeing people in leadership positions really applying to learn as a leader like they have as an operator. Here's the second thing, and it was someone who I'll just say was very senior in the civil service about 12 years ago. Did me a real favour, because I was sitting with him in the cabinet office, and I'm sitting across the desk from this senior guy, and I'm thinking, oh dear me, he knows 2/5 of sod all about leadership, and I'm his leadership coach. And I can remember walking back out of the whiteboard thinking, what do I do? And I decided I had to go home and create something, a distillation of everything I'd thought about leadership. So on a couple of pages max, it could get a handle on this leading stuff. And I went back and I reflected. I went into my study, and there's over 200 books on leadership, and I reflected back on over 10 years of consulting and seeing great leadership in action. The great favour he did was have me see that I had been sucked in by the leadership industry, like everybody else, into believing that leadership is complicated and complex, and to do with lots of ideas and models and this, that, and the other. And I realised, no. This is a natural human activity, and when I boiled down everything I've read here, I realised there's only three aspects. There are only three buckets. Now you can call them different things with different titles, but here are the three aspects of leading, which we've taken for the last several years out into all sorts of organisations. When you are in leader mode, you're thinking it's always starting in the future. But where are we leading to? Where are we headed? What are we going to build? What are we going to create? How would we like it to be? That's all thinking in the future. Crucially, all of us have that leadership muscle, as I call them. And you can demonstrate that to yourself, because if I said to you, can you imagine in the future, next year, an unbelievably great holiday that you'd love to have? You just flex that future muscle. We can all do it for a great holiday. Have we been doing it for our team, our organisation, and where we want it to be? It's there, but have we been flexing it? I'm going to help you flex it quite soon. So first of all, you've got to have ideas about what do we want to build, where do we want to go. But the second piece is, you probably want to bring people with you. And my definition of engage is you interact with people, so you leave them wanting to build the future with you. This is different to talk at, present at, transmit to. Engage, as we will spend a little bit of time on in a moment, is much more of a two-way interaction which brings us together, finds some common ground, and gives us a basis for walking together in our relationship. That is different to transmitting to. I say that with a bit of feeling because I still come across senior leaders who haven't got the distinction between talking at and engaging. But so far, we might feel as though we're really in good leader mode because I've had a sense of the future and I've engaged some people, but nothing's happened yet. That's why the last piece is deliver, implement, execute, make it happen. A piece that some leaders prefer to avoid. They think they can just do the future and the engagement. And I promise you that everything you read about leadership, you can fit into that model. And that's why I called it leadership plain and simple. So let me walk you through some of the aspects of here, starting with future, absolutely crucial. When I was writing the book, I got to a point where I was thinking, what am I going to put on this white sheet of paper that's staring at me? And I asked myself a question. I know a good question to ask. What are all the common characteristics of all these great leaders I've been working with? And nothing came to mind. So what do? The answer's obvious. You go and put the kettle on. And as I'm doing the tea, and I'm just getting the grapefruit marmalade out to do the toast, I have a moment of insight and I realise there's only one common feature of every leader I have worked with. It's got nothing to do with age, or title, or position, or training, or personality, or Myers-Briggs, or anything you like. And what I realised was that everybody, I would say, was in leader mode. And by the way, you've all been there at some times, you might be in that space now. Everybody at their best in leader mode, my shorthand is, they are people who are up to something. That is, there is a future that they want to create. There's something they want to make happen in the future, and crucially, it is connected to what they care about. And this is crucial because when you step into leader mode, you're coming away from your operator manager, which is generally dealing with what exists, and you are trying to create what doesn't exist. So you're then in the realm of uncertainty, and you're definitely in the realm of having setbacks and disappointments and upsets, and people not following through on the whole shopping list of them. And as they say, when learning to ride the bike, failing is not falling off the bike, failing is not getting back on the bike. And as a leader, what's going to help you get back on the bike to want that future again and want to build it with others? My answer is because what you're up to is connected strongly to what you care about. So if I was working with you one-on-one as your leadership coach, we'd say hello, we'd agree whether to work or not and so on. But as soon as I could, the first question I would be asking you is, please tell me, what do you care about? Because that is the source of your energy for the journey. That is the source of your resilience and bounce back ability when times are tough. So my two crucial questions are, what do you care about? And if you could have it any way at all, what would you love to be up to at work? What would you love to be making happen? Now, as you're at the advanced group, I'm going to throw you straight into this space. So we don't have the water wings on by the side of the pool in the 3-foot-6. I'm taking you up to the 16-foot-6 without the water wings, and I want you as best you can, I know I'm pushing you, to get in touch with either talk in a minute about what you most care about that shapes what you'd like to do at work, or shoot to the second question, which is, if I could be up to anything at all at work, this would be it. The beauty of this conversation, by the way, is that nobody will be holding you to it. So you can fly, even if it's just for 2 minutes, you can fly and let rip. And allow yourself to imagine, if you could be up to anything at all at work, what would it be? Just for a couple of minutes. I'm going to ask you to give us some feedback, but not on what you say. More, how did it feel? What was the energy like? What was the interaction like? How did you feel before you started, in the middle, or even at the end? Big question. Do the best you can, just for a few minutes. Go. Okay, here we go. It'd be great to hear from some of you, not necessarily about the content more, if you like, but also, what was that like? How did that feel? What was the energy like? How did it change?
People, and in our sector, patients. What do we care about? People.
People.
Yeah. And in our sector, it's patient. I don't like calling them patients, but really, if we do think always of them as people, we will deliver a lot different from thinking about people as patients.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well said. Yeah. And somebody else, please. Yeah.
As a leader, one thing you mentioned was reduction in the waiting time for the patients that they engage with.
Yeah.
And they've had a massive improvement through changes in working practices to smash all the government targets.
Yeah.
In an iron method. And I asked him, well, that's great, but what did that actually mean for the patient? And they've already seen life improvement for these groups of patients and better outcomes for them, really. So it's quite a pertinent point, I thought, to what we're doing here this morning.
Superb. Fantastic example of the power of, no doubt, having great technical expertise and then adding a sense of future. Allowing himself to think, well, what would be great here? What would be outstanding? He might even have been bold enough to say, given those answers, what would be even better than that? So there's something about future and lifting energy and creating a sense of possibilities. So let me move into a particular space. I'm going to whistle through something because I can imagine a sense of energy involved in just that story there. And here is a very powerful statement from one of the great writers on leadership and people and so on. And this is quite a challenging sentence. because most of us might not think this way. But consider, just for the next 2 minutes now, your number one job is to manage your own energy. I know it'll have resonance with some people in your sector in the room. And then have the second bit, which is how can you help manage the energy of those around you. Now, I'll be honest with you, the first time I read this, I didn't understand what he was on about. So I've then done more thinking and reading and so on, and I've got a model of 4 energies, at the end of which I'm going to ask you, what do you notice about yourself or your place of work? There won't be time to go into a pair. I'm hoping some of you will just call out and have dialogue with me. So I'm going to walk you through the 4 energies. The question is, what do you notice about yourself or the energies that are the energies that are present in your place of work? So 4 energies. First one, no particular order, intellectual energy. There'll be bags of that in the room. Lots of quality thinking for analysis and debate and logic and so on. There'll be tons of that in the room. Your second energy is your emotional energy. Now this is your energy of human connection, of relationships. When it's good and strong, people feel included, valued, listened to, perhaps even special. And I'm sure you'll get a copy of these slides, by the way. No need to take everything down. So emotional energy, different sort of energy. Energy of connection and people. The third energy is the energy of your spirit. And you'll notice it's linked to words like inspire and aspire, because they all come from the same Latin verb spiro, to breathe life into something. So this is your energy of life, of vitality, and it's very strongly linked to your sense of future. And you can demonstrate this to yourself now. Think of a time when you say, your spirits were good, your spirits were high. How big did the possible future seem then? Boundless. We can do anything. But go to a time when you say your spirits were down, your spirits were flat. How big did the possible future seem then? Ooh, tiny, not worth bothering. So a powerful energy for human beings anyway, but especially powerful for leaders. Trying to create that sense of future, of possibility, and this is where hope and optimism live. But again, those 3 energies don't actually get anything done, which is why physical energy is needed to make things happen. Now, I've gone through those very quickly, but now let me plot those 4 energies in a general order of priority for operator, manager, leader. I'm going to do the first 2 columns, and I'm going to ask you to shout out your answer to the 3rd column. For most people in most jobs, when you get hired as an operator, you've got to do lots of stuff. So my running order for most people in their first job is do lots of stuff with your physical energy. Think it through a bit, but the emotional and relationships and spirit, don't worry too much about that. For many in the room in a highly specialised technical job, your intellectual you could actually have in first place with your physical second. When people move into a manager space in general, they move into, you've got to do some more thinking now, because there's a budget and a timetable and resources and allocation and priorities. You've got to think some stuff through here. Now you've still got to get lots of stuff done, and your emotional energy and relationships with other people, yeah, they're more important now, but they're still third. And spirit and so on, don't worry about that stuff, just get things planned and managed and done. I'm going to ask you to call out what's your number 1 leadership energy. Let's see what we've got in the room. After 3, 1, 2, 3. What's your second key energy for leaders? 1, 2, 3. Have you seen this slide before? That's my running order, and that's when I have this sort of conversation, that's the general order that people call out. And I put this out, by the way, on a train journey to Hemel Hempstead on just the back of a piece of paper. Oh, I'll plot the 4 energies against operator, manager, leader. But what I saw explained to me better than anything I'd seen as to why, for 20 years, had kicked on meeting people who'd gone into senior leadership positions but weren't being leaders. And it's because nobody had told them the priorities are completely shaken up here and you need to be aware of it. And from somebody who's done so well with your technical knowledge and your ability to get things done and plan things and so on and so on, now you're much more about managing the spirit energy in the place and having people feel emotionally connected to you and the future you want to build. And people get into leadership positions, they don't get told this. And it's there. And I looked at it and I thought, blank, that explains so much of what I've seen in so many people in leadership positions. I'm not the only one, and sorry, we're not the only one who would put spirit in first place. From Harrison Owen, you've got loads of stuff going on, and if you want to practice this leadership stuff, managing the spirit is the most important. Looking at time, as I say, I haven't got time for it to go into a pair and think about this. Don't know if anybody's got any comment, so we'll certainly take that or any question as we go along. And just stick your hand up if you do. In the meanwhile, I just ask you to be thinking about the four energies. Let me go back if I can. Oops. Just notice, where are you currently naturally strong? What's the suit that you know I've got there? I can get things done by playing that energy or that energy. But also please notice what you might want to take away from today as an energy or two you might consciously practice bringing more of so you can do a better drucker. The drucker saying your number one job is to manage your own energy. I'm going to amend it now, to manage your own energies, to thereby help manage the energies of those around you. Leave you with that to be thinking about. Spirit number one place, emotional energy number two. And if we move now to engage, so, like I've found the quintessential essence of leadership earlier in the first video, I've now found engagement, a true coming together of two human beings. So complete, it's untrue. We're now in the emotional energy space, because we're in the engage of bringing people with us. Just get how these two are connected in the next video, if you can.
Das hier ist nur ein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät, das wir möchten. Das Gerät des Überlebens. Ja.
Mayday, Mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... over. I mean, we are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We're sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
Perfect coming together of two human beings. I really hope that doesn't remind you of any conversations you have at work. Maybe. Okay, engage. This is the piece where you're either great or not so great at interacting with others so they want to come with you. And they want to lower those waiting times or whatever the technical piece might be. I'm just watching the clock. I've always got too much to say to get into a short period of time. I'm just wondering how to bottom with this. Okay, in the engage space, if you want to get really good at this, the first thing to get clear on is who do I want to engage? If I was working with you, I'd say, right, let's write it down. Let's get you clear on who's on your radar for people you want to engage. The second thing I then say is let's have a look at some levels of engagement and write down where you think key people are now in these levels and where you want them to be. Let's quickly run through them. So, you want to build some sort of future. where we reduce this or increase that or cut that or whatever it might be. And you might have some people in resistance to what you're about. I hope not too many. More positive, but actually can be more difficult to deal with, are people apathetic to what you're about. Yeah, I can see you're interested, but I don't really care. Next level up, more positive, is you've got some people in grudging compliance. You might have a few of these. And this sounds like, well, I really don't think that's a good idea. But if that's what you want me to do, okay. Grudging compliance. Anybody with children might be familiar with that one. Okay, the next level up, you can get some good stuff done. You might only want some people on your radar to be in willing compliance. This is the territory of good soldiers. If that's what you want, yeah, that's what I'll do. And that might be enough. But in some situations, if you're really going for something ambitious, you want something extra, and you want people choosing to participate. That's the word enroll. I am enrolled. I'm going to bring my ideas, my creativity, and help make this happen. But when the meeting finishes, I've got other things to get back to, so I stop thinking about what we've been talking about, which is different when you get people to the level of being committed. So a useful scale, I just introduced it, you'll get the slides I'm sure. Very useful tool to help you think through, who do I need to engage, where have I got to so far, where would I like to get them to, and how am I going to set about it. Now the shorthand version, the very shorthand version of engage, is that when you come along to engage me, please let's try and create a sense of possibility for me rather than you just being happy in a sense of possibility for you. That's the first thing I want you to do, what I say to you. But here's the second one, which is that everything we're talking about is happening inside our relationship. And if I pick up that I don't feel valued by you, or I don't feel listened to by you, or I don't feel you think I'm important in this, you will really struggle to have me engaged. Which is why I say, in the engaged space, you've got to have relationships big enough to get the job done. So I'm pausing here, because some of you, to some people, it's like, well, that's bloody obvious. That's how the world works. That's what makes the world go round. But others might be going, hang on a sec, this guy's coming along here to tell me that to make the biggest difference I possibly can using my technical skills and abilities, I've got to get really good at building big relationships. Oh, sounds a bit soft to me. I've seen it 1,000 times. You know it in your own life. Where do you get stuff done quickly and easily, no problem at all? Have a look at how big those relationships are. Whereas it's tough and slow and so on, have a look at how big those relationships are. I've been very surprised if you don't see a correlation. So 3 practices to get really good at this engaged stuff. This I've put at the top of the list, which is consider, to be really good at this engaged stuff, you arrive in situations with the intent to engage, rather than just transmit, tell, or talk at. Just consider what that preparation might feel like. I'm going into a meeting. Oh, I'm now going to pause and think, who do I want to engage? How am I to go about it? Second one, to reinforce it, is build big relationships. And the third one is manage your shadow. Let's do this very quickly. Can you think of someone who, when they walk into your office space, your energy goes down? Somebody once said, do you only want to think of one person? Now, I have asked thousands of people that question, and what I've learned to do is notice how quickly you are in touch with other people's shadow. But guess what my question to you is? How well are you in touch with the impact of your shadow? And those of you who are sitting there a little bit smart, a little bit smoking, I've got this worked out. I can tell you I'm pretty good at knowing about all this stuff. And I've had a resident in-house coach for the last 31 years. She's called my wife. Now and again, I get feedback on my shadow. It's always delivered in a caring and constructive way. It's usually quite immediate. She doesn't save it all up for my annual review. And I find that at times I'm casting my shadow and I don't know about it. So if I'm pretty good at this, don't know about it, I promise you there are times and places you are casting your shadow and you don't know about it. If you want to get good, really good at engaging and therefore really good at bringing people with you, making a bigger difference, go back please and ask some people about your shadow. Also have them talk about your light, which lifts the energy and so on. Now my top 3 practices for engage. When it comes to deliver, people say, well, how do we deliver more? Well, you know lots about deliver, but this is about delivering through others. This is not delivering yourself. The gentleman who pulled something off that we just heard about over there, he didn't deliver it all. He facilitated delivering through others. But this first piece needs to be in place. I'm not going to chat to you about deliver until you told me first, have you done a good job in future and have you done a good job in engage? Because if you haven't done those two, it's like you're walking down the road, you see 2 guys carving stone. You ask the first one, what are you doing? He says, I'm carving stone. You ask the second one, what is he doing? He says, I'm building a cathedral. In the first story, future and engage hadn't been done. The second story, it was there and alive. If we had more time, I'd explore with you to what quality of conversations you have in the deliver space. Do you have full and adult conversations that talks everything through? I call it robust dialogue. That is something which can help you deliver more now. Crucially, back to this lady's comment here, how do we deliver more later and keep on building our capability? And this is my favourite answer to the question, which is that not only do you take on how do I grow myself as a leader, but you also look out and practice how do I develop others as leaders as well. And please notice that is different to develop others as good quality followers, it's develop others as leaders. In terms of our time together, I've purposely spent more on future and engage. Because lots of us in operator management, we know lots about deliver. The key twist is deliver through others. And the way you do that is get better at future and engage. When it comes to teams, I have a one-liner. This is the key ingredient I look for when I walk into a room with a team. How strong in this room is the sense of we are up to something together. Something future, together, engaged. You won't have used this term before, but you will have been in teams where this ingredient was present. And you can sort anything out. And you've been in situations at times where it's been absent, and anything can come along to drag you down. But one line of teams, people make them too complicated, create a sense of that. So, in summary, in this whirlwind tour of the world of leadership brought to you by a travelling Englishman today, what's the quick summary? If you want to take all your skills and make a bigger difference in the world, I'd say look to bring in, develop yourself as a leader, as well as somebody has great expertise and knowledge. The core idea is be up to something, as we've explored a little earlier. The really good news about all this leadership stuff is it's far less about complicated ideas than it is more like learning to play a musical instrument or getting a sport better or singing better. Get a lot of practice, just practice. But don't walk alone. You are central to your play, as it were, but don't walk alone. You will need a support team to encourage you, lift you back onto that bike, and have you believe again you can pull something off. And your support team can also give you that feedback of when you're casting that light and when you're casting that shadow. and that's our goal with it. In terms of taking this further, if it's stimulated your interest, at our website, Future Engagement, there's loads of free stuff. There's over 100 articles that we've written on this leadership stuff. Quite soon we'll be doing more tweeting with excerpts from the book and inspirational quotes and so on. Again, that might be a little tickle for you to keep things going along. And the book, I have to say, it's absolutely bloody brilliant. And you'll find it on Amazon in the bestseller. Search for leadership, you'll find 80,000 items, and for the last 4 years, this has been the #1. So, bit quick, hope you got something from it, hope it stimulated you to perhaps build on this after today. Thank you very much. It's nearly been enjoyable being in Cardiff.